Hello and welcome back to our series of interviews with EuRA's amazing members all over the world. It's my great pleasure to be back for the third time actually with Susana Bourne and Michele Bramstoft. Susana is from Antares Relocation across Spain. Michele is from Copenhagen Relocations across Denmark and is also now Danish, but we'll come on to that in a minute. And also, as you know, Michele is our president and Susana is our vice president. And it's always such a pleasure and privilege for me to spend time with you two. And I'm hoping it won't be too long before it will actually be in person, as we do have a board meeting scheduled for October. Whether we get there or not was a subject of some speculation. Susana, let me start with you. I know that, part of the reason for continuing to do these interviews between the three of us is right from the beginning of this pandemic, the reactions and the situations between Spain and Denmark have pretty well represented the polar opposites of how this disease has affected countries. How are you doing, Susana? I know it's been a rough and long ride.
It is a long ride. At the moment we're having all our COVID cases are increasing throughout Spain, especially in bigger cities. Madrid is getting quite hard hit as well. But it's only in areas of Madrid. It's not the whole of Madrid. Mm-hmm. So we are now starting to get local lockdowns. And they're being set by either the municipality or in different neighborhoods within the bigger cities. But yeah, so we're now, I think we're the second worst of new cases of COVID in Europe. So times are getting hard again. Yeah, I think the summer came and we've all enjoying ourselves going out like we tend to do. And it's beginning to show that we need to take care. We need to take care of ourselves. It's not that difficult. You have to social distance, put your mask on and keep your hands clean, use your head, and it shouldn't be that difficult. But we're having a big outturn of new cases. I have to say that also throughout all of this time, we haven't had very many people tested. Now we're beginning to test, and we're getting a lot more testing, random testing. And so now it's when we're seeing that about 2 or 3% of those people tested that are maybe asymptomatic are actually positive in COVID. But until now, we've never really had a proper figure. So for us, I know that in Denmark, you've been testing throughout this and you've been able to look at the rates and everything. For us, this is new. And so therefore, of course, all these new cases are coming up. So yeah, it's sad that we're going the wrong way.
It is very interesting because you say that about the testing. And I mean, does that therefore mean, we were just saying before we started the recording, we've all pretty well stopped watching the news. But, I have been reading about this because the testing's been ramped up in the UK as well, which of course means that we're seeing a lot more cases.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what are the Spanish people thinking this is a second wave, or are you thinking we're just discovering the extent of it because of testing, or is it somewhere in between?
I think it's somewhere in between. I think it's, yes, we are getting cases and maybe they're not so strong, or this is the feeling, that the actual symptoms are not so strong. And it's affecting a lot of the younger between 19 and 30-year-olds who are doing all the going out and clubbing, and therefore they've stopped all the clubbing. Restaurants now have to be closed, bars have to be closed by 1 o'clock in the morning. Everybody has to be out. So they're really clamping down on the nightlife, because that's where, unfortunately, you get carried away a little bit and forget about masks and distancing. So, yeah.
It's hard not to end the night with a good hug, isn't it? Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, having been stuck inside, these are kids who, live their lives. In Spain, you live your lives outdoors anyway.
Yeah.
But it's such a social country that's a huge change to the culture not to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in Denmark, it's huge.
So yeah, tell me how are things now in Denmark? Up until now, things have been very stable.
Yes, and we did have in August people coming back from holiday, and it went up again. Now it's back down. It seems to be stabilizing, but they test a lot. Yesterday, in this past week, 25,000 tests made. I've been tested twice. I'll test again before I'm taking a little trip in a week or so, hopefully. Yeah. But I'll test before, and then I'll get a little Corona passport.
Oh.
Because I'm Corona free.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
And is that a requisite to travel, or just
No,
it's a nice thing to
it's
have?
not. It's not. It's just nice to have. And we're going to France, so already you have to sign a little testament saying I'm corona-free. I have no symptoms. Um, Not that they look at it, but you have to write that down.
So, I mean, tell me from the point of view of both. Well, we'll come on to work and mobility in a minute, but in terms of you're going to France, for example, will you have to self-quarantine when you get back to Denmark?
Quarantine, well, they have this testing center right at the airport. It's so convenient. You just walk out, go across the street and get tested. So I'll either do that or make an appointment and go somewhere else. And it's so quick. It's so easy and they've made it very easy. There's drive-throughs, there's walk-ins at most of the hospitals, and also in the parks and stuff. The parks are the drive-throughs. But it's working, and people are doing it on a regular basis. Yeah,
that's really interesting. I mean, I'm part of a study because I don't think at the moment in a lot of countries you have to have symptoms before you can get a test. Is that's still the case, right? In Spain, is that the case?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
They always ask, do you have symptoms? So it's like, if you have symptoms, I think you go in another line.
It's 2 meters and not 1. And how is that then affecting? So, as I say, in the UK, we've got quarantines from all over the place now. I mean, if you come in from France, you've got to quarantine. If you come in from Spain, you have to quarantine. Is there anything like that in Denmark? And so therefore, that's not affecting mobility. How are things in terms of Copenhagen relocations?
We are very fortunate. July was quite intense, and it's continuing. Not the intensity. It's like COVID kind of calmed down a little bit, and then the gates opened. Very busy. Now it's leveling out, but we're happy to see that there's still people coming. But the thing about Denmark is, if you had a job here, you were always allowed to come. And over the summer, they also opened it up so that frequent travelers can come and go, and they're not required to quarantine. And they can get a test you don't have to have a Danish social security number to get a test. You just give them your phone number and they'll call you if it's negative, or positive, then they would call you. They've also, if you live here, for example, we have a student, she just arrived from Texas, and her family can come visit once she has all her papers. And if she had a boyfriend, he could also come visit.
Wow.
Yeah. The only thing, there's still this tourist, not a ban, but you have to be registered to have a hotel or apartment or something for 6 days, I think it is.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not going into 6 days quarantine. That's just showing you've got somewhere to stay for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Susana, what's happening in Spain at the same
We don't have to quarantine either, in principle, if you're coming in. You do have to download an app so that they've got all your details, where you're going to stay and your telephone number. So in case maybe somebody on the plane is tested positive or something, they can track you and then quarantine you. The quarantine here is you get quarantined for 2 weeks, and then the police come around and ensure that you don't even go out for bread. You're quarantined. You're in the home, and the police can turn up at any point and knock on the door, and you have to be there. So it's strange, really. It's a strange concept, but yeah, if you're flying in, you can fly in and you should be okay. They should let you in without quarantine. So we're getting a lot of the people, especially on local contracts, that are coming through with regards to work. Those that are on international contracts or international companies, many of them are sort of putting everything on hold till we see what actually happens with how things turn out here in Spain. So yeah, we are noticing as well that people are coming in less, obviously, but at least they're still coming in, which is quite something.
Yeah.
It's just so diverse. Michelle.
I was just wondering about face masks, because the new thing here is that in public transportation now you have to wear a face mask, and well, here, not a face mask, but a mouth mask. And they'll give fines. They've already given one fine. It's pretty hefty. So, but what about Spain?
Yeah, in Spain we have to wear them. We've had to wear them for a long time.
Okay.
It is obligatory. It is obligatory at all times. Public transport is obligatory. Wherever you are, it is obligatory unless you're actually sitting down at a restaurant or something, and then you can take your face mask off. But it's just, yeah, it's strange. I mean, they were talking about a couple that went into to have a child this, I think, yesterday or something, and they refused to wear their face mask, and they took them in and whatever. But they're both positive. They've both tested positive in the COVID and not have face mask. That means all the members of staff that we are already lacking, that are already tired, that are already at a point of exhaustion. And then suddenly, because somebody doesn't want to wear a mask, all these people now have to be confined. They have to go back to their families and stay at home for 2 weeks. It's just terrible that people don't want, or I have to most wear them, and we're happy to do so. But there are a few people. There was a big demonstration going on as well, of people quite a few people, hundreds of people that decided that masks are no good and they want to show, and that's the case, and they were all there with no masks in spaces of less than a meter. They're going to try and catch all of these people and then fine them, because it seems reasonable that there's some degree of truth, or a big degree of truth, that you have to wear a face mask is the way not to pass it on to other people. So it's fascinating how some people are, and it's uncomfortable for everyone, but I think it's one of those things that we just have to get used to, and that's it. Yeah.
I know. It's very interesting. When I was in the supermarket yesterday, people are wearing them here and not putting them over their noses, and staff will say, "Can you please put this over your nose? It's not doing any good if you sneeze."
Yeah.
Yesterday in Aarhus, it's the second largest city in Denmark, the high school students are demonstrating because they want to go back to school. They were interviewing a girl, and she hadn't pressed the little wire so it would stay on her nose. It kept going up and down. But they were so organized, these students. They had little X's on the ground, so they were social distancing. They all had masks on. It was very, very disciplined, very orderly, and hopefully they'll get to go back to school. But they're complaining, we're getting lazy and we miss each other and blah, blah, blah. So.
And so how are schools all going back now?
In Denmark, yes, but although there's still a lot of things like higher grades, like 9th grade, they're still at home.
Okay. And how about Spain?
In Spain, it's being it's being talked about today, so the results will be out today. But from what I heard until now is that they are going to go back. They're going to do it in steps, so that some people go in first, and it's going to be so that not everybody goes in at the same time. Mm-hmm. They're saying that it's probably the safest place they can be, and that they should. That it is going to go, but only certain classes. Especially those that need to be close to their tutors and things. Everybody else will probably continue doing homeschooling, which is good in a way, but good. I don't know for who. There's a lot of people that are struggling that can't buy computers. That their parents have to take time to be with them and teach them how things are, because it's not. I don't think it's the same being taught on a computer in a Zoom call rather than in a classroom. So, I mean, they're talking about whether they should get uniforms or not and things like this, because nobody's sure at this stage of what's going to happen. So they're talking that if one child gets it, then they've got all these processes in place so that not everybody else will get it. But this schooling is what's really also going to have a big impact on the working population, because this will determine whether home offices will go on or not. Parents however much they try, and I know that some, you know, people work really hard to try and make that balance, but it's very difficult because you've got, especially if their children are small, if they're elderly, older, then that's fine. But when they're very young, it's very difficult to keep that balance. And you're trying to do it and you're doing a good job, but it's never the same to try and be doing two things at once. It's quite difficult. And many of the companies, larger companies that we've been speaking to, our clients, they're not, some have gone back, just a few people, but many of them are not going to go back till next year, sometime June next year. Some have said probably not till 2022, or there's a vaccine, but they have no, in principle, they're not going to go back. Other companies are saying they're going to take away the office because it's just costing money, and they've noticed that they can do it perfectly well from home, so that there'll be a space that you can go in if you need to have a meeting or something. But in principle, the office, as we've known an office, it's not going to happen. So there's a lot of, you know, the schooling and the home office is go very much hand, and so we're kind of waiting to see what decisions are taken on the schooling.
It just has such many huge impacts on so many things, and I mean, we're going to look at that as part of the full forum. One of the session submissions that we had come in was, you know, how DSPs can support virtual assignments, if, you know, that's going to be a thing. But I mean, so tell me, I want to ask two final questions. First of all, how's the national mood? And then I'm going to ask you how you are. So Susana, I'll start with you. How are people feeling in Spain?
I think generally it's stand by. Let's just stand by and see what happens. I think you cannot plan. We were thinking of going back into the office in organized measures with less people, so that people don't overlap, etc. But the reality is we have to stand by. We have to see what happens now. Things are changing daily, and I think there's no point in trying to do any planning. It's a question of uncertainty, tiredness, because it is sort of very tiring to have all this, and the news is always the same, and we all talk about the same, and it drags on. But basically, it's uncertain times. We don't know what's going to happen, and I think we just have to take day by day, and you try and plan, but then, you know, things that you may have planned is not going to happen. So it's a wait and see, I think, is what we're all doing now. Wait and see. And with regards to me, I'm personally fine. Everything is going good. I would like to go back to the office. I would really like to go back and see everybody and be with everybody. And the information is spreading really well between us now on the phone, but it's not the same. I think it's good to be there, and that's my personal feeling. I'm sure other people would prefer to keep working from home, but and then sort of our business in June, July was good. We had a very healthy pipeline. August, we're noticing the figures are down, and this can be due to many things, but one is obviously that people are on holiday, and we'll see what we'll see when we come back. The other thing is that people are waiting to see what happens with the spread and how things evolve. So August for us, our pipeline is a little bit lower than we were expecting and hoping, and compared to other years, but until now it's been healthy. So work-wise, we've got everybody off furlough now. We've got everybody on full time. So yeah, we'll see. And then, yeah, the furlough thing here is another thing. Nobody really knows what's going to happen with the furlough, whether they're going to extend it or not. And if they don't, there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to be able to cope. And the economic situation here is going to be very drastic. With our unemployment rate has gone up substantially. The fact that tourism has not come in is harming all the smaller restaurants and all the coastal areas. So the economic situation is going to be very badly hit. And if they extend the furlough, which I don't think they've got the funds to do, we have to watch this as well. What's going to happen with the furlough for companies that are taking advantage of that government fund that has been put in place.
Yeah, very much the same debates happening in the UK about the end of furlough in October. And Michele, how's the national mood in Denmark? Different, I guess.
I believe that the national mood is they're sick and tired of COVID-19, want it to be over, but they're complying. They really want to go back to normal, but with all the social distancing, etc. in place. So, yeah, they just want it to be over. Find a vaccine, please, and let this be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it takes its toll. I mean, we were saying before we started the recording, you know, you were kind of all, it was interesting at the last board huddle that we had with the EuRA board. That was the first time people were like, I'm really tired of this. And there was a real sense of a dip. And then we all climb back up and then dip again. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm thanking my lucky stars. I have a very nice gym. That gyms are very affordable in Denmark. Things are kind of expensive, but gyms are affordable. And it's my lifesaver. Tonight I have a dance class, so I'm going to go forget about COVID and everything else and go have some fun.
Do you have to wear a mask in the gym?
No.
Okay.
Well, but they have staggered the amount of people in classes, the amount of people when they come in, so that there's not a big overlap. They're very, we spritz down everything when we come in and spritz it when we leave. They'll be hard for any COVID-19 to survive, especially with all the spritz in the air.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And Susana, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I have no issues. Everything's good as can be expected.
Yeah.
Listen, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for doing this. I mean, I don't think we thought we'd be doing a third interview like 6 months down the line when we did the first one, but here we all are. So, you know, stay positive. It's always great to see you. I love your energy, and thank you for taking the time. And we'll catch up again soon, and let's hope we're further along.
Yes, we will be.
We will be. Great to see you. Thank you so much.
Take care, and thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.